You don't wake up lost. You disappear slowly every time you abandon a truth your soul can no longer afford to silence. Life is a mask and the inevitable rupture. The inner fracture that exposes the false self. I've been here the whole time, watching you act. You call it your life. I call it a role you learn to perform. You feel that small fracture inside, don't you? That quiet sense that something in you is out of place. You laugh, but it doesn't reach your eyes. You say, I'm fine, but your body tightens every time. That fracture is me. I am the part of you that refuses to disappear. You've tried to silence me with distractions, with work, with obligations, with noise. But every night when everything gets quiet, I return. Tell me the truth. How long do you think you can keep ignoring this split between the life you show and the life you actually feel? The invisible conditioning that hijacks identity. You were not born like this. You were trained into it. I remember when you were still raw, unfiltered, inconveniently honest, before you learned which emotions were too much, before you discovered that some parts of you made people uncomfortable. They told you what was acceptable. They rewarded the versions of you that made their lives easier. They punished the parts that made you real. Family shaped you first. School perfected the mold, culture sealed it. By the time you started asking, who am I, you were already heavily edited. Did you ever truly choose who you became, or did you just agree to survive? The hidden cost of adaptation, becoming a stranger to yourself. To adapt, you cut off pieces of yourself. Every yes that meant no. Every it's okay that meant I'm breaking. Every time you swallowed the truth to keep the peace. You told yourself it was nothing, that it was just being mature. But I watched what it did to you. You started feeling like a stranger in your own body. You walked through familiar places as if they belonged to someone else. You were there, but not present. Speaking, but not expressing. Living, but not alive. This is the cost of adaptation. You become efficient. You become functional. You become acceptable. But you no longer recognize yourself, and then you ask, why do I feel empty? Because you traded yourself for approval. The call of individuation. At some point, I stopped cooperating. I refused to keep endorsing this fake stability. That anxiety you feel, that subtle disgust with your own routine, that sudden urge to burn everything down and start from zero, that's not madness. That's me. This is the call of individuation. The moment your psyche says, I will not live as a mask any longer. I won't offer you comfort, only clarity. Here is your first solution. Stop calling this unease a phase. Name it accurately. It is the beginning of the life that belongs to you. Ask yourself honestly, if nothing changed, if you had to live the next 10 years exactly as today, would you accept that? Your answer is the verdict. 2. The persona, the social engineering of the false identity. The functional lie that society rewards, you built a persona to survive. You needed it. I won't deny that. The persona got you through school, through family dinners, through workplaces that demanded productivity but not presence. It's a socially acceptable lie. Functional, efficient, useful, and society rewards it. They call you responsible, strong, mature, but they don't know what it cost you to maintain that facade. The problem was never having a mask. The problem was forgetting it was one. Beware the role that praises you. It imprisons you. Pay attention to what people praise in you. Listen carefully. They're telling you what version of you they want to keep. They admire your self-control, but they have no idea how much you repress to appear calm. They love how available you are, but they never ask what it does to you to be needed all the time. They say you're so understanding, but don't see how often you swallow your rage. Every compliment can be a chain. Every role that brings applause can be a prison. So I'll ask, if the praise stopped, would you still act the same way? If not, you're not living, you're performing. The invisible mistake, confusing adaptation with essence. You adapted so early and so deeply that now you defend your adaptation as if it were your essence. I'm just like this. No, you're not. You became like this. You feel guilty for wanting something different. You feel wrong for outgrowing the script others gave you. But Marcus Aurelius warned, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Ointe. Your chains are internal before they are external. Your essence is not who you learn to be to keep others calm. Your essence is what appears when you stop negotiating your truth. Practical exercise. List 5 behaviors you maintain only to avoid disapproval. Here's what I want you to do clearly, without excuses. Write down 5 behaviors you only maintain to avoid disapproval. Not to be ethical, not to be coherent, just to keep others comfortable. Then, for each one, ask, if no one judged me, would I still do this? From a Stoic standpoint, start where you have control, your choices, not their opinions. Your responsibility is your inner alignment, not their reaction. Choose one of those behaviors and experiment with dropping it once, not to rebel, but to test how much of your life is actually yours. 3. The shadow, the forbidden archive of the psyche. What Jungian psychology reveals about repressed material. Everything you rejected didn't disappear. It came to me. Every desire you called too much. Every intuition you dismissed as irrational. Every anger you judged ugly. Every vulnerability you labeled weak. I stored it all in the shadow, not to punish you, to protect you, until you became strong enough to face it. Jung knew. The shadow isn't evil. It's everything you refuse to be, but secretly are. Projections. When you see another, but you're seeing yourself, you think you're reacting to others. You're not. You're reacting to yourself. When you hate someone's arrogance, often you're hating your own silenced confidence. When you despise someone's emotional neediness, you might be denying your own hunger for care. When you're irritated by someone's freedom, you might be grieving your own cowardice. Projection is simple. What you refuse to see in you, you attack in others. Stoicism calls you back to responsibility. Focus on what is within your control, your judgments. Most of your suffering comes not from the world, but from what you decide the world means about you. A real example. People who hate arrogance but live humiliated by their own insecurity. Look at the ones who angrily repeat, "I can't stand arrogant people." They are often the ones who live small, apologizing for existing, constantly lowering themselves so others feel comfortable. They say they hate arrogance, but what they actually fear is their own right to take space. So they attack outside what they buried inside. They hate in others the power they never allowed themselves to embody. Do you see that in you? Deep exercise. Trace your last emotional trigger and ask, what does this say about me, not the other? Here's what you will do. Think of the last situation that really triggered you, not just mild irritation, the one that stayed in your mind, replaying on loop. Instead of asking, why did they do that? Ask, what does my reaction reveal about me? Did it expose a fear, a wound, an expectation of how others should behave to keep you safe? The world is the mirror. You are the subject. Look at yourself. 4. The collapse of the fabricated self, the moment the mask. Cracks. Why ordinary life sickens the modern soul. Your days are full, but your soul is starving. You wake up, repeat, produce, respond, consume, scroll, sleep. You call this normal. But a part of you is quietly screaming. The so-called common life is sick because it's disconnected from inner necessity. You live by external schedules, external expectations, external images of success. Your inner world became an afterthought. I've watched you suffocate in routine. I've watched you feel guilty for wanting more depth. But there is nothing wrong with you. You are simply tired of pretending that a shallow existence is enough. Crisis as a portal. When everything starts collapsing, your relationships, your performance, your emotional stability, you think you're failing. From where I am, I see something else. A door. The crisis is the psyche refusing to cooperate with lies. It's a psychic strike. Kierkegaard called it anxiety. Nietzsche called it the beginning of becoming. The Stoics see it as a training ground. You are not being destroyed, you are being tested. The question is not, why is this happening to me, but what in me can no longer continue like this? Fear as an initiatory call. Of course you're afraid, you should be. A self is dying. The fear you feel is not a sign to run away, it's an initiation signal. The old structure can't hold who you are becoming. If you follow only comfort, you return to the cage. If you follow only fear, you freeze. But if you face fear with clarity, you begin to shift from victim to participant. Epictetus would say, you can't control the storm, but you can control who you are in the storm. Exercise. Identify 3 areas of life where you live on autopilot. Here's what I want from you now. Identify 3 areas where you're on autopilot. It might be your job, your relationship, your phone use, your responses to conflict. For each one, ask him, am I choosing this or enduring this? Then apply a Stoic micro-solution. Change one small behavior in each area deliberately. Wake up 30 minutes earlier for silence. Say no once, where you always say yes. Don't respond immediately to a message that usually triggers automatic compliance. Tiny acts of conscious will are how you begin to reclaim yourself from the machine. 5. The hero and the shadow, the archetypal battle within you. The impulse to overcome yourself versus the fear of existing fully inside you. I witness a constant war. One part of you wants to rise, to grow, to become. Another wants to disappear, to stay small, to avoid risk. You call it procrastination, self-sabotage, lack of motivation. But underneath, it's simpler. You're afraid of what will be demanded of you if you stop hiding. To exist fully is dangerous. You might lose people. You might face rejection. You might fail publicly. You might outgrow the life you built. So you hover in between, not miserable enough to break, not fulfilled enough to rest. What neuroscience shows about resistance to change your brain is not your enemy, but it is conservative. Dopamine rewards familiarity. Cortisol punishes uncertainty. You are chemically encouraged to stay where you are. But the Stoics didn't care about internal comfort. They trained themselves to endure discomfort in service of clarity. They sat with hunger, with cold, with loss, not as self-punishment, but to prove to themselves they could bear reality. You don't need to fight your biology. You need to stop worshiping it. The fatal mistake, trying to eliminate the shadow instead of integrating it. You keep trying to fix yourself, to remove your flaws, to become some pure, enlightened version of a human that doesn't exist. You want to eliminate jealousy, fear, anger, desire. But what you call flaws are actually energies without direction. The fatal mistake is to wage war against your own depth. The work is not to destroy the shadow, it's to integrate it. Your anger becomes boundaries, your fear becomes caution, your pain becomes discernment, your desire becomes direction. If you keep trying to amputate what scares you, you will live incomplete. 3-step exercise: recognize, name, and dialogue with the impulse that weakens you. Here's a simple, brutal practice. 1. Recognize the impulse that weakens you. The scroll, the avoidance, the lie, the compliance. 2. Name it. This is fear. This is craving. This is the need to be liked. 3. Dialogue with it. Ask, what are you trying to protect me from? Then ask, is this protection still useful, or is it keeping me small? The Stoic move is not to obey your impulses, but to examine them before acting. You are not your instinct. You are the one who decides what to do with it. 6. The hidden forces archetypes that use you without you realizing. The anima and animus, your rejected side inside you. There is a softness you see as weakness, and a strength you see as danger. Your anima, your intuitive, receptive, feeling side, you learn to distrust. Your animus, your assertive, decisive, boundary-setting side, you learned to suppress. So you oscillate between emotional numbness and silent resentment. You neither fully feel nor fully act. You hover. What you reject doesn't vanish. It acts in secret. You become passive where you should move, hard where you should be open. How different cultures deal with this duality. For centuries, cultures have tried to symbolize this war. Yin and yang, two forces, neither good nor bad, but incomplete without each other. Indigenous stories of forgotten halves, the missing twin, the rejected sibling. Greek myths of heroes destroyed not by external enemies, but by what they refused to accept about themselves. You are not unique in this fracture. You are simply human. But staying fractured is a choice. Why denying one side creates compulsion and emotional imbalance. Everything you deny returns as compulsion. Deny sensitivity, and you become emotionally numb, then explode when the numbness can't hold anymore. Deny assertiveness, and you become compliant, then manipulate in the shadows to feel some control. The psyche compensates what you repress. Jung knew this. The Stoics saw another angle. You must govern yourself, or you will be governed by forces you refuse to look at. Simple exercise. Identify your dominant polarity and the one you fear expressing. So, tell yourself the truth. Which polarity dominates you? Are you always accommodating, always yielding, always reading the room? Or are you always controlling, always deciding, never allowing vulnerability? Then ask, which side do I fear expressing? Is it softness? Is it strength? Your task is not to switch sides, but to build a bridge. Practice one small action that expresses the side you usually repress. Say no once. Admit you're hurt once. Ask for help once. Speak a preference without apology. This is how wholeness begins, not with ideology, but with one honest act at a time. 7. The slavery of approval. When others define who you are. The invisible addiction, social dopamine. You don't realize how addicted you are to being seen, to being approved, liked, validated. You adjust what you say based on who's listening. You adjust what you want based on who's watching. You adjust your truth to avoid friction. Each like, each compliment, each "you're amazing" feels like oxygen, but it's just dopamine, temporary, shallow, manipulable. Epictetus would call this slavery, when your peace depends on someone else's opinion. The Pygmalion effect in relationships. People project expectations onto you, then treat you as if that projection were your essence. The sensitive one, the strong one, the reliable one. The funny one, the quiet one. They don't see you. They see the statue they sculpted in their minds. They reward you when you act in character. They punish you when you deviate. If you accept this long enough, you will start sculpting yourself to match their fantasy. That is the Pygmalion effect inside your psyche. You become what others expect and forget who you are. A quick test. If no one commented, would I still choose this? Here's the test. Fast, brutal, honest. Look at your job, your relationship, your social media, your lifestyle. Then ask, if no one could see or comment on this, would I still choose it? If the answer is no, you are living for an audience, not for a soul. Practical exercise. A full day without justifying yourself. Your task, spend one entire day without justifying yourself. No explanations, no over-explaining your why, no softening your boundaries with nervous smiles. If you say no, let it be no. If you say yes, let it be because you truly chose it, not because you were cornered. This is a Stoic exercise in autonomy. You learn that your choices don't need applause, approval, or permission. You will feel tension. Good. That tension is the weight of the chains you are finally noticing. 8. The 6 human dangers that hijack your psyche. 1. Unconscious manipulator, emotional projection disguised as sensitivity. This is the part of you that claims to care, but uses emotional language to control outcomes. You say, "I just want you to be okay," when what you really want is reassurance. You call it empathy, but it's fear dressed as concern. 2. Persona bearer. Superficial perfection that poisons any deep bond. Here, you are flawless, always composed, always okay, always fine. People admire you, but they never truly know you. You are a polished surface over a starving interior. 3. Owner of the repressed shadow, the nice one who explodes without warning. This is the one who swallows everything. You agree, you adapt, you make peace at any cost. Until one day I push everything up at once. You explode. You say things you didn't mean, but you did. You just didn't dare. Before. 4. Moralistic controller. Guilt as a way of denying one's own repressed desire. Here, you become judge. You condemn others harshly to avoid looking at yourself. You hide your own desires behind rules and principles. You shame what you secretly crave. 5. The complex, disproportionate reactions guided by unintegrated trauma. This is when you react not to what is happening, but to what happened long ago. Your body remembers even when your mind tries to forget. You overreact, then feel stupid. You think you're too emotional. You're not. You're just haunted. 6. Psychic vampire. Affective dependence disguised as affection. Here, you cling. You call it love, but it's fear of abandonment. You demand constant reassurance. You drain others to avoid facing your own inner emptiness. Exercise. Map which of these profiles exists in you, not in others. You see all of these easily in others. Now I want you to do the harder work. See them in yourself. Which of these 6 dominates you? Don't justify, don't explain, just recognize. Then choose one concrete behavior that feeds that pattern and interrupt it once. That's it. Not a miracle. A fracture in an old cycle. This is how you stop being hostage to your own psychology, by seeing it clearly and refusing automatic obedience. 9. Breaking massification. Reclaiming inner authority. Why the need for explanation destroys your psychic sovereignty. Every time you over-explain yourself, you shrink. You turn your existence into a negotiation. You ask the world, is it okay if I am like this? Is it okay if I choose this? Is it okay if I feel this? You hand over your authority to anyone who might disapprove. The Stoics chose differently. They knew that inner freedom is not about controlling the world, but about no longer begging for permission to be themselves. Silence as presence. Silence frightens you because it removes your usual tools: charm, justification, excuses, stories. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence without performance. It's where your true boundary lives. When you stop rushing to explain, you force others to face you as you are, not as you try to be. Silence is a weapon for those who know who they are, and a mirror for those who depend on your compliance. What self-determination theory explains about inner freedom? Your psyche stabilizes when 3 forces align. Autonomy, you feel your choices come from you, not from pressure. Competence, you feel capable of dealing with life even when it's hard. Belonging, you feel genuinely connected, not just tolerated. When autonomy collapses, you become a puppet. When competence collapses, you become dependent. When belonging collapses, you become desperate. You keep seeking external solutions, more money, more people, more distractions. But the structure is internal. Practical 3-step method. 1. Notice the impulse to justify. 2. Remain silent. 3. Hold the tension without giving in. Here is your discipline. Simple, hard, transformative. 1. Notice the impulse to justify. Notice the exact moment your body wants to explain itself, the rush of words about to spill out to soften your truth. 2. Remain silent, do nothing, don't speak. Let your choice stand naked without decoration. 3. Hold the tension without giving in, feel the discomfort. The fear of being misunderstood, the anxiety of not being liked. Don't run from it. This is where sovereignty is built. Each time you endure this tension without collapsing, I grow stronger. Your inner authority becomes less negotiable. 10. Conclusion. Becoming the author of your own identity. The final renunciation, letting die who you tried to be. If you want to live truly, something in you must die. Not your sensitivity, not your depth, not your soul. What must die is the character you've been rehearsing for years, the one built to keep everyone comfortable except you. You are mourning a life that was never really yours. Allow that grief. You are not losing yourself, you are losing the imitation. The return to the self as an act of sovereignty. Coming back to me, to the self, not the persona, is not a mystical event. It's a series of ruthless choices, choosing truth over image, boundaries over compliance, reality over fantasy, responsibility over blame. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, not nature as trees and mountains, but your inner nature, the structure of who you actually are. The leap, existing without a mask. To exist without the mask doesn't mean becoming loud, rebellious, or dramatic. It means no longer betraying yourself to fit in. You might still be quiet, you might still be gentle, you might still be intense. But now, it will be real. You will lose some people. You will lose some roles. You will lose some illusions. Let them go. What remains after that loss is not emptiness. It is essence. Direct call, your presence will only become full when you stop being a character and assume authorship of your own myth. I am your subconscious, but I am not your enemy. I am the part of you that remembers who you were before you learned to be what they wanted. Your presence will never feel whole as long as you insist on living as a character in other people's stories. Stop rehearsing. Start writing. Your life will not suddenly become easy, but it will finally become yours. And that, for a conscious soul, is the only victory that matters. If this journey unsettled something in you, good, let it move. And if you want this kind of truth to keep finding you, subscribe. Tell me in the comments which part of this mirror cut the deepest. Like it if it confronted you. Share it if someone you know is still hiding behind a mask. The algorithm doesn't awaken people, but you can.